All right, everyone. We are about ready to begin our work session this evening. If everyone would remember to turn their microphones on, and as we speak directly into the microphones so folks can hear us. Tonight, we do have one interview. Barry Gross, please approach the microphone.
How you doing?
Welcome, Barry. So you have applied to be a member of the Waterfront Advisory Commission. Tell us a bit about your interest, what qualities you think you'll bring to the commission and help it do its work.
Okay, so I grew up in Narragansett, moved to SK when I was 18 years old. When I graduated from high school, I was a commercial fisherman for 10 years. So I was very much into the Galilee, out of Davisville, all over the place, and, spent first 10 years of my professional career as a commercial fisherman. When I decided I wanted to be home a little more often, became a real estate broker 30 years, and I also bought a small marina in Wickford. So the marina has turned into a pretty substantial marina over the last 28 years. I've done close to $2 million worth of infrastructure improvements dealing with CRMC, Army Corps of Engineers, DEM, all the regulatory bodies. I've had a lot of dealings with, aquaculture issues. I've had guys who have worked out of my marina, I spend all my best days now are on Salt Pond or offshore. And, I've been involved in the Rhode Island Marine Trades Association and a lot of things. Also in my real estate business, coastal access has been very much an issue. And I've sold properties to folks down on Charleston Beach and explained to them, your deed may say 1 acre, but it's no longer there, those types of issues. And it's a very complex issue that's been, litigated in the state of Rhode Island, and it's an ongoing thing. So there's a lot of things that, the board deals with that I have a little bit of knowledge about. And I think from that aspect, I think I could be helpful because, believe me, over the last 28 years, I've seen a lot of different things as far as it relates to my marina. And I believe, I think it could be helpful to the board, the experience that I've had over the last 28 years and my whole life.
Thank you. Questions for Barry?
Barrett, thank you for joining us tonight. You touched a little bit on coastal access. Could you go a little bit deeper into that? Where do you stand as far as citizens' rights to access the shore versus private property owners not wanting to allow that?
Well, it's a complex issue, and we're seeing it play out in real time right now down on Charleston Beach. And again, I think it's settled that folks have access up to the seaweed line or mean hind water line, and it's difficult to explain that to a client when they say, well, wait a minute, I'm buying an acre of land, but through erosion it no longer is there. And there's a meets and bounds description, and it's something that sounds like it might be the root, and it's way beyond the root of the problem, and it's something that's probably going to be litigated, and it's way beyond my pay grade. But again, I make it very clear to folks that there may be a path here that the public has access to. We're seeing parking issues play out in Narragansett, and it's a very difficult thing to see our town change when folks come in and they want to buy a property and they pay a lot of money for it and they want to protect what they think they have. And again, the best I can do with that is I'm a strong advocate. I know where all the public right-of-ways are, and I use a lot of them. And I make that very clear when folks say to me, well, what about this path right next to the property, or what about this paper road that runs down to the water? And I explain to them, it's settled that that's, it's public right-of-way. And so I feel very strongly that the public has access to it, but I also believe in private property rights, and I believe that regulations have their place, but I think that this is an issue that is going to be litigated, and it's going to probably fall on the side of public access because it's become such a big issue lately. And I feel strongly that public access is, very important.
So would I be correct in assuming that you would make it a priority to preserve and protect and rightly identify existing rights-of-way?
I feel that it needs to be looked at. All parties need to come to the table, but the diminishment of public access is a problem throughout all coastal areas.
Thank you.
If you were appointed, you would obviously be part of the board, and obviously the body would make recommendations, but one of the charges of the commission is to advise and make policy recommendations to the town council. Do you have any thoughts right now about some policies or changes you could foresee making or could see advocating for?
I can't off the top of my head, other than the fact that I see, in past years I've been involved. My kids have gone through the sailing program at Point Judith Yacht Club. I've been a past member. I have some ideas down there of what I would make a recommendation for, and I'm confident that in past, many years ago when we were dealing with the lease and whatnot, I think it really falls under the town manager's purview. Mm-hmm. But I have opinions about things, and I have ideas of what I believe that would work real well for the town. I have some ideas on some stuff, just based on my own experience and some of the things I've seen. I'm a kind of I ride my bike down to, Ram Point Marina, Stone Cove Marina. I'm through that whole area all the time, and I walk around and I talk to folks. And I have kind of some ideas that I think could be helpful to the town.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you again for throwing your name out there. We should be able to let you know pretty quickly.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. All right, and I think now we can get into the meat of tonight's agenda. It's a thick feeling agenda, but perhaps we'll move through it quickly tonight. Terry, do you want to take us away?
Sure. Good evening. We can jump right to communications, I believe. Item J is the email from Tim Murphy, who's the chairman of the Library Board of Trustees, and this is a continuation of the conversation dealing with the parking at Kingston Free Library. There have been a number of communications very recently as well to the university, to the new president, appealing to retain those parking spaces. My office has also been in communication again with the office of Abigail Ryder at the University of Rhode Island, and we are continuing to have the conversation, but clearly there's been a strong appeal from not only the Library Board of Trustees, but also the letters that recently came, and they're not part of this agenda, but support from the Historic District Commission as well. And we just moments ago received a letter from the office of Abigail Ryder that recaps the meeting that was held at the Kingston Library, and there is the president has offered for, I believe it's a 9-month continuation of the parking spaces at the Gateway Apartments for the library, while the town looks to perhaps secure some other parking spaces on that side of 138, which it gives us a little bit of time to breathe, to really continue to explore what might be available with the Mosby Russell property. There has been very preliminary conversations on that front as well, and we're going to continue those conversations. But just hot off the press, there was a communication from the university. So that gives us a little bit of leeway to work with, but we've got to continue. It's a long process if we're looking to secure some land on that side of 138 that's safer than crossing over. And in the meantime, discussion with DOT still needs to be had with regard to the 138 Phase 2, I think it is, project, to see if there can be any movement on that as well, and what the plans may be that could afford us parking on that side of the road, or perhaps even if it's 2-hour parking rather than all-day parking, that type of thing. So that's where that stands. So we're appreciative of all the support from the various groups that have really Kingston Improvement Association, a number of groups that have reached out to the university to impress upon them the importance of this. While it seems like a little thing to some, it really does matter. We have an email from Jonathan Daly LaBelle resigning from the SMART Committee. He's relocating, so he will not be a town resident any longer. Item M is a letter from Charles Sweet with regards to a recommendation for developing plans that would connect a whole string of town property from the Neighborhood Guild and the high school over to Broad Rock. Mr. Sweet certainly has a wealth of knowledge of the town. What I would recommend is that the planning department and public services would really need to take a look at this and see where things could work in terms of it is a broad scoped type of recommendation and involves some property that the town doesn't currently own, but could potentially look to a long-term plan. So my recommendation would be that we will need staff to kind of flesh this out a bit more and see what can be done. We have item N, which is Richard Schurzak also resigning from the Zoning Board of Review. Item P is an email from Jocelyn Leska, and this has to do with the previous executive order that puts a limit on, actually I believe the executive order did not specify URI students living off campus, but in general there was an order for no more than 15, gathering of no more than 15 inside and 50 outside. That order doesn't exist anymore, and currently URI does have a program requiring students to be vaccinated, with some exceptions related to health and religious differences. So at this point, I'm not sure what the council's pleasure would be. I think we're going to have that discussion kind of in a broader sense when we talk about the governor's press conference today and mask wearing and the status of COVID-19. And perhaps that this should be rolled into that conversation.
And even the next agenda item after that, perhaps.
Yes, so that's the next agenda item. Councilwoman Kelso had requested that the council discuss mask requirements within town facilities. The governor did have a press conference today. There was not guidance provided by the state in terms of a broad brush with masking in public places. However, there was an announcement that all healthcare facilities have to require their employees to be vaccinated. There is a recommendation for CDC guidance to potentially be followed, that is an option, and the CDC guidance is a recommendation that regardless of status of vaccination, that if you're entering a public building in an area that has substantial or high rate of transmission, that masking is strongly recommended.
Terry, the governor did say that if you were going into the State House, you would be required to wear a mask.
He did say that, but he also said that they were in discussions with state employees.
Yeah, but the State House itself, not state employees, but the State House itself,
Okay.
and state employees were going to be required to wear a mask. So that was
Okay.
a veer from his first statement, which was he was not going to have a mandate. Then he countered that with except in the State House, which was
Yeah. So that
confusing, right?
I don't think that is. I could have misunderstood, but I don't know if that is in place yet, because he did talk about having discussions with employee.
Talk about the union discussions, but within the State House, he did say it, that masks were going to be required in the State House.
So that's a consideration. You see that some of the businesses in towns are posting signage that are referencing the CDC recommendation, and so long as the state is currently in a substantial transmission rate, although South Kingstown is on the lower end of that, it may be something we want to consider. I know there was concern raised about public meetings and coming into council chambers or any public meeting, and perhaps masking might be the way to go for the public meetings, but certainly considering it for all town buildings is something that you can certainly put on the table. When school starts again, it will be an item that will come up in terms of any type of town programs that have children involved. Because if children are going to be required to mask in schools, there's got to be some kind of consistency outside of schools. So, it's certainly up to the council whether you want to make masking mandatory inside every public facility until the town's out of the substantial transmission category, or the state is out of the substantial transmission category, or make it strongly recommended and in any public town meeting mandate it. So, it's council's decision.
All right. We'll see how that conversation goes.
Terry, what's the recommended CDC guidelines at this point currently as to mask wearing?
It is if you are not vaccinated that you wear a mask.
Okay.
If you're vaccinated, they're still strongly recommending masking inside in areas of high transmission or substantial transmission rates of COVID-19. And Rhode Island is currently in I believe it's a substantial transmission category.
How about South Kingstown? Do we know that data?
I do. South Kingstown's also in substantial, but it's much lower than most of the rest of the state.
Okay, thank you.
I heard at one point we got to the high level, but we're high. Yeah.
Can you remind me of what the what the numbers are for transmission? I have.
We're close to 3%.
Well, you can't go by percent positive because the people who are going to get tested are symptomatic. Mostly what you need to go by is cases per 100,000 people in Washington County is at 16 cases per 100,000 people with an average daily case number of 20, compared to Rhode Island as a whole with 219. So that would be, I believe, in low to moderate transmission for Washington County. That's in real time.
We do have one more meeting before URI comes back, correct? We don't have August 23rd?
Unless URI comes back after September 13th. That's the next council meeting.
Oh, not the 23rd?
No, there's only one meeting in August.
It's on the schedule of meetings, so, okay. So we need to make a decision tonight, otherwise we won't be meeting until after they're back in class.
If you want to coordinate it with the start of the school year.
In terms of any sort of masks, we won't meet as a council until September 13th. That's what you're telling me?
That's correct.
Because, see, look, it does say that. Oh, okay.
So, Mike, at our last regular session, I believe, or two ago, we made a decision to discontinue the Zoom meetings. If we wanted to go back to that style of having council meetings, considering, I don't know, if COVID rates increase, what would we have to do that?
So unfortunately, you as a council must continue to show up in person. However, you can make Zoom available to participants. But under the Open Meetings Act, unless the governor reinstitutes a new emergency order or the General Assembly changes the law, every public body must meet in person, which is why several public bodies have decided masking.
So in terms of public meeting spaces, are they meeting in that small room most of the time? Are the only options this room and that room?
No. The larger planning board meets here in the council chambers. I think the zoning board of review does as well. There are other boards and commissions that meet in different areas. This second floor conference room, other buildings potentially. I know the Recreation Commission and the Waterfront Commission meet at the Guild or the Rec Center, which has larger space available.
That's what I was thinking, trying to put boards and commissions in the largest rooms we have so that people feel a little bit more, we can spread people out a little bit more.
We can certainly look at the calendar. We have to make sure that this room is available whenever the council is meeting. But we certainly have other times and evenings and other facilities, meeting rooms that are larger than what might be available here in Town Hall, if we had to explore that option.
And I know we meet at this time bound by the charter, but other boards and commissions, are they bound by a certain time?
There is, in their charge, there's usually an established third Monday of the month or first Thursday of the month and a time. Typically, they're on a regular schedule.
Some overlap? I was just thinking if we could make the biggest space available, sort of work on some of the timing so that they could meet safely in the largest space. That I didn't know if we were bound by certain things. We have the authority to change that if we chose during COVID.
other boards and commissions? Would that be acceptable? There are certainly times when boards and commissions have had to change their meeting day and time because of something that may come up. So that's certainly not off the table if that were something that had to happen. The advisory, the boards and commissions that are in an advisory capacity would probably be able to
Have more flexibility.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we'll have a good discussion around this issue when we...
Just add one thing. I think the question is, what can we do to make sure that our boards and commissions, who are made of volunteers, are most comfortable conducting the business of the town? What can we do to ensure that?
Yeah, and in addition to making space available, you figured out you have the right, if you want to mandate masks in all town buildings. You can do that if you want to.
Thank you. This work session is flying by. Are there any items of particular interest that people have on the rest of the agenda? Or we can continue to just sort of go through? Okay, let's continue through it.
Okay, so we have our new business item A, which we have our esteemed guests with us this evening. And Mike, is that something that the council could, if you chose to?
I'll bring that forward.
Bring it forward.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Item B is an award of contract as advised by John Schock for the portable water tank anchor stud design services. I believe that's a sole source, so that's John's recommendation. There's also another recommendation from the Public Services Director for the Regional Road Striping Contract Extension for item C. There's item D, and I believe item E are both amendments to the contract with T-Mobile for the sites at the water tanks for their lease agreement. So those are both recommended by the Public Services Director. Item F is a rejection of all bids in relation to a pickup truck. That's also from John Schock. We have item I is a recommendation for the purchase of a new Zoli X-Series defibrillator as recommended by Chief Stanley. Item J is the extension of the town's declaration of emergency. And item K is the recommendation to establish a steering committee for the purpose of planning the town's 300th anniversary celebration for 2023. And we have a closed executive session as item 12. And that is the agenda. Anybody
All right,
has
any questions on the agenda? We have about a minute.
I do have one, but I can put it into the meeting if that's okay.
A minute and a half.
Oh, we have a minute and a half. So I just was interested because this is the first time that we had a recommendation not to make the purchase by, so item F, and I just had a question. It had me thinking, because the recommendation is to move the $39,000 into the Highway Reserve Fund, and so I was just curious, do we track those purchases that get shifted to reserve funds, and do other departments have those reserve funds holding?
Yes, so what happens with the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund is, for instance, something like this, or where there's a bid award and you're not spending as much as was budgeted for that particular item, it falls to the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund for that particular department in the event that something else comes up. For instance, there are circumstances where purchase recommendations have been made that exceeded the budgeted amount, in which case the reserve fund is recommended to supplement that bid award. So that's what happens there. I believe in this particular case, John had mentioned that the vehicle, it has a good year left in it.
Yeah.
So there is the intention, it will be cycled out, but it'll be in the reserve fund category.
So in a future budget, that wouldn't be a line item, it would be just noted that it's coming out of the reserve fund?
Correct.
Okay.
And John should be here, so if you have any.
He's here.
Is that right, John?
Thank you.
All right, very good. And that takes us to 7:30. Are we ready to begin broadcasting, recording, everything? Of course we have. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Tuesday, August 10th, 2021. The time is 7:30. Our first order of business is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join us. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins.
Here.
Council Vice President McEntee.
Here.
Councilwoman Bergner.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelso.
Here.
Councilwoman Rose.
Here.
All members are present.
Good, thank you. Without further ado, I'd like to bring forward item 11A under new business. It's a resolution recognizing members of the Union Fire District for saving the life of a man and his dog from a fire at their home. I don't know if someone among you would like to come up to the podium and just discuss the heroism of the moment. Well, in the meantime, I'll read this resolution. The Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown hereby offers its appreciation to Union Fire District Captain Tyler Parks, Lieutenant Eric Homelander, Captain Andy Duckworth, Lieutenant Matt Viner, Lieutenant Dan Keeley, and Deputy Chief Tony Cincagrana. In recognition of their courage during the early morning hours of March 20th, 2021, when the crew's quick response and professional training helped rescue a victim and his dog who were trapped in a serious fire at their home. Their performance was above and beyond the obligation of duty. Members of the Kingston Fire District, South Kingstown Police, and Emergency Medical Services personnel are also commended for their actions and assistance in this dangerous situation. The Town Council extends its appreciation and congratulations for a job well done. And I guess I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11A.
Deb Bergner, I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Chief, I don't know. You can deliver this at your will.
I would just like to thank the council for having us here tonight. It was quite a hectic situation, but the members did a fabulous job on making the difference that somebody's still here today because of their actions. It doesn't often happen that you get there quick enough to make that kind of difference. Usually it's either too late or somebody gets out on their own, but this was truly time of the essence. And remarkable efforts of the police before we got there to be commended as well. The person was just in too far for them to get without protective equipment. Our members were able to get in and get the person out and also go back and get a dog. There was also a report of possibility of another victim in as well, so other crews also searched. It was later found out that the other person was located outside the residence, so that was good as well. But we just kind of highlights what they do kind of day in and day out. Something like this kind of highlights it, but they work hard and dedicate themselves to keeping the residents safe in the town. So the support of the council is much appreciated, and we couldn't do it without everybody's support. So again, we want to thank you, and I also want to just give a word of thanks from Tyler Parks and Eric Homelander, who had commitments and weren't able to attend, but we're very thankful to be given this opportunity and the recognition. So thank you all for that. Thanks.
Thank you. Bless you all. Thank you for your hard work for the town. All right. And that brings us back to item 4, the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 4A, B, and C.
Jess Rose, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Deb Kelso, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
Yes. I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Beasley had reached out to me. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't want to, if he wanted to pull anything off the agenda. Mr. Beasley, did you want something taken off the consent agenda tonight? I know you had sent an email. G, item G, on the school building committee?
G.
Or is it the one on the auction? Is the auction here? I didn't see that. Is it related?
It is related. The email referenced the property in town and potential purchase of it. So there were 2 emails that came from Mr. Beasley. And
If I may, I was going to ask that this be taken off of consent agenda. For all of the searching through my email, and Councilwoman Kelso was helping me do that just a minute ago, I did not receive that email from Mr. Beasley, so I am not sure what his email said. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
Absolutely. That was an error. It went to the town council email and not to your individual emails. And
Yeah, I did a search for it, and I
that
was
was
not
our
able to find it.
error.
So we have a motion to pass the consent agenda. Do we need a amendment, or is it possible just after we pass this motion to still pull it off the consent agenda, Mike? Or how would you prefer we do it?
When
Okay.
you individually, it did not go to the town council email.
So it's not on.
You can certainly talk about it under public comment.
Okay, we'll take it up under public comment if we want to have an agenda item.
Right.
Okay, very good. We have a motion, second. Any further discussion? All right, is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to 7J. An email dated July 26, 2021 from Timothy Murphy, Chairman of the Library Board of Trustees, to URI President Dooley and Dr. Parlange, I'm sorry if I don't know his name yet, regarding the impending loss of parking spaces on campus reserved for the Kingston Free Library. That's been received and placed on file. I see, Tim, if you want to come up. We did have a brief discussion over sort of what's been happening in the work session. I'm not sure if you got to hear it, but we did get some communication back from Abby Ryder. But first, tell us.
Well, I wasn't aware of that. I was at we had a meeting of the library board tonight, so it just ended. So can I ask what the communication was?
Unfortunately, it wasn't that great, but we do have a bit of a reprieve. I think that was a 9-month window where they're going to allow us to keep the Gateway apartment parking spots. Is it 4? Oh, it's 4.
Four spaces at the Gateway parking till June of 2022. And that was addressed to you, Tim.
Oh,
Response. But it just came 20 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. That's why I haven't seen it yet. Well, I'm not sure what to say about that other than a little is better than nothing, but I think there's still room, in my opinion, for pushing ahead and trying to get those 6 spaces permanently dedicated for library parking. And I think the more that the community and the town council and other interested players can make that point to the people at the university that this is important to us and to the community, and we, the community, have provided a lot of support to URI over the years. That was in our discussion tonight at our library board meeting. One of the members there, who was a professor at URI in library science, noted that for many years the library at university had no children's collection, so any library science students who wanted to do children's library work had to come to the Kingston Library and use their collection and use the resources there. And there's been a lot of that sort of cooperation going back many, many years, and it seems that for 6 parking spaces, it's not too much to ask, in my opinion. So I appreciate everything that the council has done and the town manager, and I know our legislative General Assembly delegation is also working on this, so perhaps we can do a little better than what it appears to be offered at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. No, I mean, you can discuss this under public comments as well, but this is just the communications. Right.
I'd like to see us try to schedule a meeting with the new president in town council chambers with the council. Terry, could we have you reach out to him and see if we get him in here as earliest as he can?
Yes, we're working on a meeting with the new president, but you want to have it here in council chambers, okay?
So my motion would be to direct the town manager to organize a meeting with the new incoming president of URI in council chambers as earliest as he can.
I'll second that motion.
Motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to L, an email dated July 29th, 2021 from Jonathan Daly LaBelle advising of his resignation from the SMART Committee. That's been received. What would we like to do with it?
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion that we accept Jonathan's resignation letter and send him a letter thanking him for his service to the town.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously, and that brings us to item M, a letter dated July 27th, 2021 from Charles Sweet, suggesting plans to develop a scenic pathway between the Neighborhood Guild and Old Mountain Field, and to upgrade and expand school facilities, athletic fields, and parking areas. We've received that. What would we like to do with it now?
During the work session, Greg, I think you were here. We talked a little bit with the town manager about your idea, and that.
Yeah.
Is it your name, Charles, too? Charles? I didn't know that. Okay. So we're going to refer this item to the town manager and the planning staff. Because I guess a number. I don't know why I'm still talking to you. It's your brother. Okay. So I make a motion that we refer item M to the planning staff and the town manager for further review and study of this.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously, and that brings us to N, a letter dated July 28th from Richard Jerzak advising of his resignation from the Zoning Board of Review effective October 1st. That's been received and placed on file. What would we like to do with it?
I move that we accept Rick Jerzak's letter of resignation from the zoning board and direct the town staff to send a letter thanking him for his service.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item P is an email dated August 4th, 2021 from Jocelyn Leska requesting consideration of the renewal of an emergency executive order to limit the number of students hosting or attending social gatherings in community housing. We did talk about this one briefly during the work session as well. Terry, did you want to say anything about that?
Sure. So this particular executive order that Ms. Leska is referring to was not specific to University of Rhode Island students living in town, on town properties. So that the dilemma is, if you're going to do it, you can't just limit it to properties that URI students are living in. It would have to be a broad-based, town-wide executive order, which would revert back to maximum, well, this one happened to be no more than 15 people in one gathering place. That's the other piece of this is the university is requiring students to be vaccinated with the exception of health issues or religion issues. So it's a council's decision, but it would have to be something that would need to be broad-based and not specifically targeting university students.
All right, thank you. What would we like to do with this one?
It seems like to me that URI is monitoring the situation and doing what they can to mitigate any increase in spread of the virus. So as to this, I don't think there's a need to put this into effect, but we'll refer this matter to the town manager's office and continue to monitor it. And if we believe it's right, we'll put this back in place.
So motion to...
So the motion would be to refer the matter to the town manager's office. No action to be taken at this time.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, just a quick question.
Sure.
So, Terry, under your emergency executive order powers, if things were to change, because we're not meeting until September 13th, this could be something that you could put forward if, I don't know. I can't anticipate what the next 3.5 weeks will be, but this is the perfect thing that I think would fall under, we're not having a meeting for 30 days, and if things were to change, it would be under your purview to make adjustments, correct?
It would be with the
Yes.
knowledge that the council would be immediately notified.
I'm just sort of saying that to the community because knowing that we're not going to meet till September 13th, I don't know if a curveball comes our way and we need to think on the fly, this is something that you could then come back to us and consult and say we should limit social gatherings pending whatever, this latest Lambda, Delta.
Yes.
So that maybe that will make the community feel like we can still pivot even though we're not meeting until September 13th.
That's true, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously as well. That brings us to item Q, an email dated August 4th from Councilwoman Deborah Kelso concerning mask requirements at in-person meetings. So I'll let you take this one.
So I asked the town manager to put this on the agenda because I had a phone call from a member of a board and also a member of the public that was appearing before a board, both expressing concerns that COVID had reared up again and they were feeling unsafe in this chamber. So that's why I asked them to put it on. My question is, what can we do to make sure that every member of the public and every member who's a volunteer and town staff feels safe under our purview? Mask requirements or social distancing, we know they work. We've seen them. We don't even mention it here at the beginning of our meetings that if you're unvaccinated, you're supposed to have a mask on, and we have masks provided. I think that might be something we might want to take up. Just reminding the public who's in the meeting that we do still have to battle this disease. I'm also concerned about staff, people coming in and interacting with staff in their offices. I just think we need to have the discussion. The governor today announced that if you are going into the State House, you will be required to wear a mask, although he did not institute a mask mandate for the state. On all indoor activity, he did say if you were going into the State House, you would be required to wear a mask. So I think his hesitancy to mask mandate is probably wise, but I also take my cue that he sees the need for it. So I would be advocating that if you're coming into town hall until this new Delta variant subsides and we get back into or under control, that I would think in town hall we would ask members of the public to wear a mask.
Okay. So, and it is within our authority to require masks at public meetings and public buildings here in town. So that is one possible course we can take. Are there, I mean, how does everybody feel about, in general, this? I have to agree, Councilwoman, obviously the Delta variant has thrown a wrench into a lot of the plans that this was coming to an end. And we're seeing breakthroughs among people who are vaccinated, and the unvaccinated are at high risk right now. And we have received communications from, volunteers who don't feel that safe with the current situation, and we do need to try and make our community feel safe, of course. But there was also some discussion in the work session about what the prevalence is in Washington County in particular. Does that demand action now, or should we set a threshold maybe where if we get to substantial transmission, we say that the requirement comes, I guess, just trying to foster communication.
CDC today lists Washington County as substantial. Not high, substantial.
Okay, so we're currently at substantial. What do people think?
At this time, I'm comfortable continuing to follow the CDC guidelines, which would require mask wearing for all non-vaccinated individuals attending any meetings. I think at this time we should just continue to monitor, rely on the state's expertise as to addressing the issue. But whatever the will of the council here, I'm willing to go. I mean, this is obviously a critical issue, and we need to make sure we get this right.
I think that it's worth noting that both Kent County and Washington County are in the vaccination range of over 61% vaccinated. In Washington County, the average number of cases per day is 16, which is low in comparison to the rest of the state. In South Kingstown, we are just under 65% vaccinated. So I would choose to follow CDC guidelines that unvaccinated individuals wear masks indoors, but I would not feel comfortable forcing that on people who have done their due diligence and gone to get vaccinated. I understand that it's a safety concern for many people. I'm not naive to that. I don't think that we're at a point yet where we need to require universal masking.
Also, in the work session, we talked about trying to schedule the board's meetings in the largest spaces possible. Perhaps we can direct town staff to look at a master calendar and sort of plan if we need to move meetings or reschedule slightly to make it safer for the staff, I think, and the board members. That would be wise. And I don't know if this is the best location, but it's fairly large. I don't know how many people typically attend the monthly meetings. I think maybe the planning board, since it's so large and there's others always there, that might be definitely here. I don't know, a larger space for sure.
Could the boards require it themselves? So if, one board may have people that are not concerned and another board feels concerned, how do we help these boards get more comfortable?
We've actually been through this in other communities. The exact issue, can an individual board, and the answer is only the governing body of the town can implement that. So that would be the town council. So the one of the ways it came up in another community is that one board member felt uncomfortable sitting next to an unvaccinated individual, and one thing led to another, and the council just mandated everyone had to wear a mask if they were in a town building. But each community is extremely different. Each one has different rates of infection, different tolerances. So that's why it's really up to each local body to decide on its own where you feel the community wants you to be with regard to these types of policies. I think it's been said several times that the planning and zoning boards, which other than the council, and sometimes more than the council, draw many people, do take place in these chambers.
Terry?
If I may, one option you might want to consider is mandating masks in public meetings and using the CDC recommendation for town buildings, which is for fully vaccinated, a recommendation for fully vaccinated people to wear a mask in public indoor settings, not a mandate, but a recommendation that is posted on every town building that says if you're coming into the building, it is highly recommended. Masks are highly recommended for all. Mandated for unvaccinated. Highly recommended for all, and you may want to consider mask mandate for all public meetings.
I could get behind a recommendation. I could not support a mandate at this point.
I'll make a motion that we table this item, continue to monitor the data behind the infection rates in South Kingstown, and hopefully make a decision at our next council meeting.
Jess Rose, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion. I'll say, I think it doesn't hurt anything to post on our buildings. It's the CDC recommendation at this point. I think, to be honest, excuse me, a number of people have sort of gotten a little lax over the past couple months. I'll even raise my hand and say that I have myself. And it's, if you haven't been paying close attention to the news, you could miss the fact that it is surging around the country at this point. And so it might be a good way to remind people that it's still a concern. And I don't know if we need a motion to do that. I feel like we put little announcements on the doors without that going through the council, but all right. Any discussion on this motion? All right. Is there anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 8, comments from interested citizens. Anybody is welcome. First come, first serve. I see we've got some takers. And just state your name for the record, of course.
I'm Richard Youngkin, and I'm the chair of the HDC, the Historic District Commission. And I want to thank you for your motion, Rory, on the getting the new URI president to come and speak to the town council and have a meeting with him. We sent you a letter by email, which you may have received individually. And I'd just like to say that there's a clerical error on the last page where we actually the second to the last page, the second page, where we actually asked you to reach out to the URI president, Mark Parlange, and ask him to come and meet with you or set up a meeting with him in his office. And we've written a similar letter to him asking him to do the same with you. So we're hoping that this comes together and that you have a productive session. I think the other thing I wanted to just add was that we, as a Historic District Commission, are concerned with all the buildings in Kingston Village. And so as you get involved in that discussion of alternate parking, we would really hope that you include us particularly if you're looking within the district boundaries, because we'll be very concerned if, in fact, historic buildings are considered for any kind of demolition or alteration to create the parking. It's a very dense district, and there are buildings all around the Kingston Library that are important, and we certainly would be anxious about anything coming out of the town government sort of suggesting that an historic building be demolished for the parking. I think we would understand if there is a need to do that, but it should be very carefully thought out. I think this is the time to get creative about how to find the parking spaces. They may not all be in the same lot. You may find multiple sort of smaller parking areas or areas where you could have parking to come up with the gross number of parking spaces you need to find. So you may have to think a little bit out of the box. We also have in our standards and guidelines that we use to review projects, we have guidelines on how to design those parking spaces and how they should look and how they can fit into the historic district. So I'm hopeful that this journey will produce something. And it's great that we have 9 months, even if we just have 4 parking spaces and not the 6 from the Gateway Apartments. But at least we've got the 4 and 9 months to work with. So thank you very much. Terry, thank you. And I'm sort of happy that that all worked out. At least today, we have some optimism here. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I might have to come up multiple times because I'm first going to talk about the library issue. So my family moved here in 1955, lived to Kingston. I think the university is being a little disingenuous with this whole process. First of all, I'm not sure, maybe John has knowledge of this, but when the university was creating a new parking plan and the upgrade to Upper College Road, did they at any time involve the town of South Kingstown planning department? Did they tell you, did they all of a sudden just drop this? Oh, by the way, you're going to lose all these parking spaces. So in the village, this is how it works during the school year. So on 138 in the village, there are 31 parking spaces. There are 13 on the north side where the library, the Helm House, and the pottery shop, those historic homes, Mr. Ndaglia's home there on the north side. And on the south side, you have 18 spaces by the church, Tavern Hall Club. Now, when the university is open, what happens at around 6 o'clock in the morning, students start arriving and they start taking it, whatever spaces there are. Those are the students that for whatever reason, they don't want to pay the parking fee for the semester, so they take all those spaces up and they'll stay there until their classes are over. Now, is that fair to the people of Kingston? Yes, in fact, it is a state road, but I don't feel it is. For the university to say to you, we're going to give you 9 months to go find additional parking spaces. It's way harder for the town of South Kingstown, to go find those additional parking spaces than it is the university to add parking spaces on their property. For instance, on the faculty circle there with Gateway Apartments, right? At the bottom of that, it's not a circle, it's an oval, right? So at the bottom of the hill, you have the laundromat. So behind the laundromat, there's another road. And when I was a kid, there used to be a basketball hoop back there, and we would go play basketball every day after school when the basketball season was going on. All right, so there's a road back there that's it's just nothing. It's just a road. They have room between that road and the bottom of that oval circle to dig in the ground and put some more spaces down there. At the Newman House, right across the street, where Newman House is the admissions building. There are behind the building, I think if I counted them right, there are like at least 16 spaces lined out, and there's 4 spaces in a little block on the road that exits it out to Upper College Road. And all the time, my wife and I walk through the village multiple times a week on our walks. I have never seen all those spaces even come close to being filled. I don't know what they do with them all. They could direct those, they could put a set of stairs, a set of railroad-tied stairs from the Oval up to those spaces and have those as additional parking spaces for those apartments. And I would. This is my recommendation that you don't have that in your meeting here. You should have that meeting in the upper floor of the library. Take the new president and whoever he wants to bring with him. Take him into that building, and don't take him. Make sure you open up those front stairs. We'll clean it up. I'll go in there and vacuum for you and get all the dead flies and out of there. and bring them up those nice stairs into that room and show them what an incredibly beautiful building this is. That's where you should have the meeting. We have the chairs up there. We have tables. We have everything you need. All right, I'll stop for now and let somebody else speak. But I'm going to come back up for that the group home thing.
Thank you, Donald. Is there anybody else who would like to speak tonight?
Hi, I'm Greg Sweet. Just a quick question. Are you going to be going over the investigation results tonight?
I mean, it is on the agenda, so I hope so, personally.
Well, I said maybe. That's why I was...
Yeah.
Okay.
I stick around. Okay. All right, Doral, I think you are up.
All right, so this is a discussion, a little brief discussion or explanation about group homes. I don't know. I think I found it on the patch. So I subscribe to the patch. So 50 times a day they send me something, and I was reading something, and at the bottom, it wasn't the thing I was really reading, but I saw this thing about these group homes going on sale. So sometime between, I think, the 17th of this month and September 1st, the state of Rhode Island is going to auction off 9 abandoned group homes throughout the state of Rhode Island. They're all in suburban or rural towns, and one of them is on Stonehenge Road up in Kingston. I want to here's my disclaimer. I live on Biscuit City Road, so I live maybe not even half a mile from this property. I'm not here tonight to say what I'm going to say because this is going to go up for sale, and I'm concerned about that. It's why I'm asking you to consider purchasing the property, or maybe somehow way funneling it to an organization like Habitat for Humanity. But so anyway, so these group homes, this home specifically consists of 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a common area space, and a large kitchen. So that's how it was set up for the group home. I'm not quite sure what the square footage is, but it's a 1-story building. I'm guessing it's in the 3,000 square foot area, maybe. So when I saw this about they're going for sale, my first thought was, well, gee, were these homes ever offered to the towns? And I've now, Ms. Murphy sent me an explanation earlier today. I don't know if she also sent it to you, but do you want to tell them about it? Thank you.
So in terms of these properties, surplus properties with the state, the Office of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance is responsible for them. They, by law, have to advertise for sale these properties. They are planning to go to auction with them, and then what happens is once they go to auction, if they get whatever their highest bid price is, the municipality where the property is located has 30 days in which to match that price if they're interested in the property. So the town, if the town were interested in purchasing that property, they would have the last right of refusal to do so with a 30-day time frame, according to the law. So that's.
All right, so what's happened in the last year and a half or so, as most of you are, I'm sure, well aware, the real estate market's gone berserk, right? So in Kingston is amazingly has some of the most affordable homes in the town. Those homes were built by, many of them were built by professors who came to URI after the Second World War. That's when that was the biggest time of growth for the university after the Second World War ended, and the GI Bills had all these men and women going to college. So it was in the 50s, 60s, and the 70s. Homes in like Little Rest Road, Little Rest area, Biscuit City, where I am. A portion of Old North Road, there's some of those homes, and off of Old South Road you got Cherry Road, Linden Drive. So anyway, and these homes are modest in most cases. They're 2,000 square feet is probably a big one. All right, so what's happened is over the last year or so is they go like crazy. They're up for sale, they're gone. In Biscuit City, where I am, we've had maybe, I don't know, eight houses go. Half of them are been sold to people who don't live in Rhode Island. A couple of them, they purchased the properties, they remodeled them, and then nobody's living in there. I guess they're going to come back for, I don't know, when the next pandemic hits. But we also have had things like a person bought a house behind me, I think it was on not Higgins. Yeah, I guess it's Higgins. From Warwick. This couple came and said, "Oh, yeah, we're going to buy this house. We're moving down here. Our daughter's going to URI, blah, blah, blah." They never moved down here. They turned it into a B&B, Airbnb. And when they couldn't fill it year-round with Airbnb, then they fill it with students during the rest of the year. Now, so I'm getting back to the group home. This group home goes up for sale. It's a type of property, the layout of the building is such that it would be conducive to putting some students in there. And I would much rather have that become, I think Habitat for Humanity could turn that into a duplex, maybe for a 2-family duplex. I would much rather have Habitat for Humanity get a shot at a building like that than to let it become into the hands of somebody who just wanted to turn it into a rental property for students that then has a potential to become an issue for the neighborhood. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Norm.
Oh, hold on. Last thing, not related. Last week you had the vote for the appointments to the 2 open seats on the town council. School committee. I'm hoping that you'll consider, that the council will consider between now and next November to propose a change to the charter to make it similar to the one that was done a few years ago, and how openings to the town council are handled. So we used to have elections. When the openings to town council, we used to have elections. And the charter was changed to say, I think it was how it was changed to say, if during the first 12 months after a general election, if an opening opens up, then for the first 2 openings that come up, the people that came in 6th and 7th, and if there are them, if the people that came in 6th and 7th in the prior election are offered that position on the town council. I think you should consider that same type of thing for the school committee. And I say that because I just have a little bit of problem with what happened last week, in as much as when you have if you have 9 choices and if you're picking two things out of a group of 9, you have 36 combinations without repeats. So this is probability. This is the part of statistics that's got to do with probability. So you have 9 openings. You're picking 2. You have 36 combinations. Well, there's 5 of you, so that's a total of 180 combinations. 180 combinations of those 9 people, and you all pick the same 2 people. I just don't buy it. That's like 1/2 of 1% that you could have possibly come up with that. And so I'd rather see it done like we have it in the charter for the town council in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Say something?
Just wait for not in response, but are we? Is there any other public comment tonight? Comments from council members?
I just wanted to comment back to Doral Beasley. So I thought about what you said, because you had written an email to me very similar about the combinations, but the reality is that we're not pulling the exact same coin out of the bag. Those 9 people had different skills. They presented different information. I mean, if they all said the same thing and we sat in little cubicles and we asked question A and they read answer A and then B and then answer B, it could be like that. But I can only speak for myself that each of them had a very diverse skill set that was bringing different things. I was looking at it through my own lens. I have no idea what anyone else did or how they thought about it, but everyone who presented themselves was a unique person who gave us information that I used to look at it. So I hear what you're saying. It's not 5 letters in a bag and we all pick like that, because they're not the same. So they didn't. And then you think about over 2 nights, and people have different answers, or they've had the benefit of watching all those other videos. So I did hear what you said, though, but for me, I can only speak from how I approach the task.
Thank you. Any other comments from council members?
Doral, thank you for bringing it to our attention that that auction is taking place. I think that it's something that we should take a look at. I think as far as us wanting to increase affordable housing, there's room for that. I think it would take very little to convert that particular property. I did a little research today into something that could be useful for our community, whether it's through the town or through, as you said, Habitat for Humanity, the Johnny Cake Center. I think it's something that we should, if we have 30 days from the date of auction to have last right of refusal, I would like to look into that.
If this is going to be a discussion item, then I would just ask for it to be a...
You can certainly add it to the agenda, or it could certainly be put on the September 13th agenda, because that'll certainly be within the 30-day time frame.
I think it would be great to have on the September 13th agenda, as long as that affords us time after the date of auction.
So Terry's just confirming the auction's not till September 1st. That gives us to October 1. So September 13th will give us plenty of time to know what the purchase price is, et cetera.
Great.
I have another topic.
Okay.
So I'm really grateful that the library has some parking. And I'm appreciative for all the information that's come out in the last 30 days to bring it to awareness. But I have a question. I'm not sure it's a misconception that I'm hearing, or people hear the wrong thing, but I feel like people are telling me that the library staff are parking in the spaces at the library, and so the other stuff I hear is, why doesn't the staff move and they'll have patron parking? So I didn't know if we could perhaps address that, because I think that's a little bit of misinformation, and I just want to put it out to the community, because one side is saying one thing and I'm hearing a different thing, and I just want it to know it all in the same place as everyone else.
I'll follow up on that. I don't know who's parking there, so I'll follow up with Laurel. Oh, sorry.
I could provide a little information. So the library staff members have been using that parking lot, 2 to 3 staff members, depending on who's working. And of course, that was when there were 9 spaces on Upper College Road, as well as the 6. Now with the new situation, it's something that the Library Board of Trustees is going to take up. If we have limited parking spaces, it would probably be reserved for patrons, but it's something that we need to discuss with the staff and with the library director.
All right, any final comments from council members? If not, we can go to the town manager's report.
Just a couple of items. As a reminder, I know we brought this up already, but there's only one. This is the only town council meeting in August. The next meeting is scheduled for September 13th. Another item on my report had to do with the informational meeting at Truston Pond with regard to the hunting program. I provided you a brief description that was provided by U.S. Fish and Wildlife of the program. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions. The program was downsized to 1 week in November, 1 week in December, issuing only 10 permits for each week. So the maximum amount of hunters on the property would be 10. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife has also instituted safety zones around the Coddington Way neighborhood, as well as other areas within the park. The residents did voice their concerns about the safety zone not being wide enough, and Charlie Vandemore was going to take that under consideration, I think bring it back to others to determine whether or not they might consider expanding that safety zone that abuts the Coddington Way neighborhood. That's where that stands. And there was also a follow-up memo from the planning director with regard to some questions related to the cottage zoning. So that was part of your packets as well. If anybody has any questions, by all means, let me know. And then we also had notification that we need to look at some signage around town that seems to be outside of the zoning ordinance. So we will be following up with that as well. Not on my report, but I thought I'd bring you up to speed. Staff has met to follow up on the Contemporary Theater Company request for the purchase of the strip of property adjacent to theirs. Staff has met with Chris Simpson of Contemporary Theater, and we've had some, we were on site, as a matter of fact. He gave a walkthrough. John Schock, our Public Services Director, and Rex Eberly and myself were in attendance, and so there's some follow-up information. We've had some questions of the Contemporary Theater to give us a little bit more information as to the plans that they intend to put in place if they were able to acquire that property. So we're in discussion with Chris on that. And Doral just left me a note that there is an open house at the property at 100 Stonehenge on August 27th, in case anybody wants to take a look-see.
Create a bidding war in town here.
And that is it, unless anybody has any questions for me.
I see none. All right, that brings us to appointments. We did have one interview tonight.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a resolution appointing Barry Gross to the Waterfront Advisory Commission.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
I would not be in favor of this appointment. I don't know Mr. Gross personally, but I do know that he is a realtor that specializes in waterfront properties. I didn't see that listed on his application. I know that a lot of the lobbyists against coastal access are coming out of RE/MAX flagship. So I would not be in favor of that appointment.
Any other discussion? All right, well, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's take the roll.
Councilwoman Bergner?
I'm going to vote no because I'm just not comfortable at this time.
Councilwoman Kelso?
Aye.
Councilwoman Rose?
No.
Councilman McEntee?
Aye.
Council President Collins?
Aye.
The vote is 3-2 to appoint Mr. Gross.
Thank you. That brings us to item 11, new business. 11B is a resolution authorizing an award of contract to Dixon Engineering and Inspection Services of Medina, Ohio, for potable water tank anchor stud design services in an amount not to exceed $16,430, including a contingency of $5,000. Further described in a memo from the Public Services Director to the interim town manager dated August 2nd.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11B.
Jess Rose, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 11C is a resolution authorizing an amendment to an award of bid originally granted July 22nd, 2019 to Safety Marking of Bridgeport, Connecticut, for municipal road striping marking services at the unit prices bid for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, and further described in a memo from the Public Services Director to the interim town manager dated August 2nd.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11C.
Jess Rose, second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. D and E, I believe, both are a resolution authorizing the interim town manager to execute a first lease amendment between the town of South Kingstown and T-Mobile USA for the town department's public services lattice antenna tower located at 509 Commodore Perry Highway. The other one is for the Victoria Lane water tank in accordance with terms, lease agreements as approved by the assistant town solicitor, and further detailed in a memo from the public services director to the interim town manager, dated July 29th.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11D and 11E.
Jess Rose, second.
Yeah, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. F is a resolution rejecting all bids received for a 2022 Ford F-350 4x4 pickup truck with snowplow, and that current year capital funds in the amount of $39,000 be reserved in the Highway Division's Equipment Reserve Fund, further described in a memo from the Public Services Director to the interim town manager dated July 29th.
Jess Rose, motion to approve 11F.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion.
I had a question in the work session about this, so maybe not specifically about this, but it sort of got me thinking. While I see that the funds will be moved over to the Highway Reserve Fund, and so I'm guessing that each department at town has a reserve fund, and do we, as a council, receive a report of the reserve funds in each area? Because I guess my first time through, thinking that everything is going to go back to the general reserve, and I didn't know how it works, and if the town finance director supervised it, kind of thing.
So I'll answer it at a higher level, and then Zach can potentially provide some detail. In terms of any of the approved capital funds, they do not revert back to the operating budget. If there's project funding for a particular infrastructure project or equipment, those funds, if they are not expended, they remain in that capital fund account. If it's for equipment, it stays in the equipment reserve fund. If it's for a particular project and the project came in under budget, it stays in the reserve, the capital project reserve fund. For primarily it's public services and Parks and Recreation, I think, have the largest capital budgets. But for instance, IT, if there's a savings on a particular piece of equipment, that those funds remain in the reserve fund in the event that, one, there's an emergency need for some purchase of something that was unanticipated or unexpected. For instance, the senior center at one point had the need for a rooftop unit HVAC piece that needed to be replaced, and funds from the reserve fund had to be utilized for that because it hadn't been fully funded through the PAYGO program at that point. So that's how the capital funding works. Does that explain it? Zach, do you want to add anything? Is that?
So, as we go through the capital, 6-year plan, we talk about these things in sort of installments. So we'll set aside, $50,000 for a dump truck, and it'll be $50,000 each year for 5 years. So these capital reserve accounts do exist for every department, and we're, always stocking them. If we don't make the purchase according to the capital budget that we pass, then it just stays there until we do make that purchase, basically, or redesignate the funds.
I guess I didn't realize that each division has little reserve funds, and so do we track that? Do we know how much is there?
Yes.
Yes. On a side note, I was sort of surprised that the truck gets replaced every 7 years and only has 50,000 miles on it. I mean, mine is a 2016 and I have 75, so I think how does even the 7 years turnover become the recommended best practice.
Right. And John can probably speak to this as well, but the life cycle for these particular vehicles, it's a cost-benefit analysis. So we don't want to have to invest in repair of these vehicles over the course of their lifetime that's going to exceed what it would cost us to buy a new vehicle. Those are the types of things they keep. The Highway Division keeps mechanical records on all of the work that's done on the vehicles, so that when we look at the budget for capital equipment replacement, we look at those reports from the Highway Division mechanics to say what has gone on with this vehicle. Has the transmission needed to be replaced? Has there been some other engine failure? Things like that where there's potentially a huge investment to be made when in fact the vehicle may be due for cycling out within the next year or two. So that's how the time frame for cycling out, particularly the trucks and equipment that public services uses and recreation. You'll see that with the mowers and those types of pieces as well. But there's a cycle. There's a certain number of life hours on particular equipment that dictates that's the typical life cycle of a piece of equipment. So, and many times we will not necessarily use it in that year, but eventually the equipment's going to be need to be replaced. We've had trucks that have been kept in the Parks Division, some of the pickup trucks, for potentially 3 years beyond where they might be. And that might have been because the funding ended up having to be diverted to something else that was necessary. So that's how that works for capital. We need a reserve for those reasons, particularly in the case of emergency or needing to expend it on something other than what it was necessarily budgeted for. But, the idea is that we're budgeting for regular replacement of equipment.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
And maybe once, as we get into budget season, I remember Steve would always give sort of like a little primer at the beginning and talk about the strategy of using the 6-year plan to make sure that we're not experiencing any spikes in spending. And we can just go through that again maybe this year. That'd be good. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Let's see, where's that? That brings us to I, a resolution authorizing the purchase of from Zoll Medical Corporation of Chelmsford, Massachusetts, of one Zoll X Series manual monitor defibrillator in an amount not to exceed $30,654, including trade-in allowance, further described in a memo from the Chief of EMS to the interim town manager dated August 4th.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11I.
Deb Bergner, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. J is a resolution extending the town's declaration of emergency adopted at an emergency session on March 15th, 2020, subsequently renewed on April 13th, May 11th, June 8th, July 13th, August 11th, September 14th, October 13th, November 9th, December 14th, January 11th, January 25th, February 22nd, March 22nd, April 26th, May 24th, June 28th, and July 26th of this year, as shown on Exhibit 1.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11J.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, we have discussion. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item K is a resolution authorizing the establishment of a steering committee for the purpose of planning and implementing a year-long celebration to recognize the 300th anniversary of the incorporation of the town of South Kingstown, further described in a memo from the interim town manager to the town council dated August 5th.
Jess Rose, motion to approve 11K.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. That brings us to item 12 on the agenda, a closed executive session. We'll be meeting in closed executive session in the conference room next door. Folks who want to stay for when we reconvene, please stay in the chambers here. Hopefully it won't be too long a wait. Do I hear a motion on 12A?
I'll read. I move that the council adjourn to closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A1 to discuss matters pertaining to personnel regarding town manager pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2 to discuss matters pertaining to collective bargaining, Ray, South Kingstown Municipal Employees Association schema, local NERI, and pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A4 to discuss matters pertaining to investigative proceedings regarding allegations of misconduct, either civil or criminal, Ray, AFL-CIO mailer.
Jess Rose, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
No.
Did a great job reading all of that.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion
We're drawing straws the next time.
carries unanimously. And as I said, we will be back after the closed executive session. Thank you for being with us to this point. Right, 2025 versus 2020. Right, it is 2025 in the thing, but it should be 2024. All right. All right, so we need... yeah.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Very good, thank you. That is because we can take action now that we're back in session. 13A is a resolution authorizing the interim town manager to enter into a 3-year collective bargaining agreement with the NEARI, Local South Kingstown Municipal Employees Association, SKMEA, for FY 2021-2022 through, it says here, FY 2024-2025. That will need to be changed to 2023 to 2024, in accordance with a memorandum from the interim town manager to the town council dated August 3rd, 2021.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 13A.
A second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Because I referenced that change, does that... Okay. All right, any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 13B, the town council may discuss and act on a memorandum from the town solicitor relative to the findings of the AFL-CIO student mailer investigation. Happy to hear a motion or discussion. Before we get to that, we did discuss the report that the solicitor has put together in executive session. It is compelling and, I would say, thorough. So thank you for all that work, Mike, and all the members of the solicitor's team. Maybe I'll just start by, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum that the town solicitor has provided us regarding the AFL-CIO student mailer investigation.
Would you say approve and release? Would you mind?
Certainly. To approve and release the memorandum this town solicitor has provided us.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Discussion.
Was this an appropriate time to explain my thinking on this? So I just want the community to know that because we're releasing this report now does not mean that we are closing the book and we are never willing to reopen it. If there are concerns, we still want to hear them. Thank you, Mike, for putting this report together. And I want to thank the community, especially the parents of the children affected by this, for their patience and for hanging in there while we work to do due diligence as far as this goes. So thank you.
Other discussion?
Thank you. Oh, yeah. So I just wanted to thank Mike's team for doing hours and hours of work on this investigation for us. I appreciate it all, and I know that it's been somewhat arduous at times. I also feel that releasing this report may not fully satisfy all members of our community, and we will be open to hearing from them. I do think while we don't have all the information we would like to have, it's the most information we have at this time. There may be other things that come up, and I am certainly willing to continue to investigate this matter if need be.
Very good. Any other final comments? All right, very good. We do have a motion. We have a second. Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. That brings us to
If I could just add, just so that the public expectations, so I'm going to make some very minor revisions to this report before it's released. It just so happens that I'm in labor negotiations in another community tomorrow morning, so most likely this will be released tomorrow afternoon, just so that individuals are wondering where it is. And the way it will be released is it will be posted on the town's website, so that in the afternoon, if individuals go there, they'll be able to access a link.
Thank you, Mike. That's helpful for folks to know.
So, Mike, will you also be mailing it to the members of the school committee and Gina Marie?
I will get it to all of you, and I will send it to the school. I'll probably send it, I think the best way to do it is for me to send it to legal counsel of the school committee and ask legal counsel to distribute it to the school committee at the same time that you all get it, so that they can get it simultaneously.
Thank you.
Very good. We have reached the end of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn. Second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Looks like it's around 10:50.
9:50.
Or 9:50, sorry. Even better.
Just have it. Just have it.